My name is Nate. Welcome to the Secret Restaurant Podcast. Dogs walking around, clicking and clacking and creaking and scratching. Clicking and clacking and screeching and scratching. That sucks. Alright, so welcome to it. Let's get to it. Jesus Christ, Cubbies. That crosstown rivalry was scary for a second, wasn't it? That first game, 12-5? Come on, Jesus. I bet some people thought the White Sox and the Cubs switched uniforms for a second. What's that say again? Oh my goodness, that was fun to watch, man. With the crosstown rivalry, yeah, if people don't know, or the date, I guess the date I should say. What the fuck is the date? 28th of July 2025. And if people don't know, the crosstown rivalry where the two teams in Chicago go across the city to enemy territory to play one another in a bloody match. And you know, whenever those things happen, whenever something so terrible happens as my two children start fighting, whenever there's the crosstown rivalry, I do feel like I just don't want either team to get swept. That's kind of my feelings on it. And the first time the Sox did get swept by the Cubs, but then this first game in this last series, dude, I bet the Cubs were like, what is happening? That was hilarious, dude. I've said it on record, though. This White Sox team, there's a lot of rookies, and they've had rookies come up and down, too, that might come back up. They had a first baseman named Elko. I'm not sure, because it's so hard to keep track of everything if he's still in the minors or if he got traded. But he was a rookie. They got a great rookie named Chase Mydroth, who's playing second base, who is a great batter, too. Who else is on there? I mean, a few people that's not their rookie year, but they are still, it's their first year in the league. Or like their first baseman, I think last year was his first year in the league, and he got traded from LA, and he's a pretty solid hitter and fielder as well. What am I talking about? Why do you need to know this? I don't know. But I talked about two first basemen on accident, so they had a dude named Elko that was a true rookie. He came up and then he batted okay, but he was good at first, and then they sent him back down, or perhaps traded him, I'm not sure. And then they moved over one of their players they actually traded for, who was a really exciting player named Miguel Vargas. And so he's the one at first now who I was talking about, who got traded from LA, and he's like gonna be in the league. Like, he's a really good hitter and good fielder, and honestly, the unfortunate truth is anyone like that might get traded in reality. But they've also got two rookie catchers going right now. They only have the two catchers they have are both rookies. And they're both really good athletes. Well, and I've seen them both. So one's named Kiero. I think that's how you say it. I always thought it was Kiero, but maybe that's just because I'm a white person. But when they say it on the commentation station, they say it more like Caro. So that must be it. And then the other catcher's last name is Teal. And I've seen both of them send that laser to second to pick off the stolen base runner. So one of them will probably get traded too, unfortunately, but I like both of them. So I was watching, so I have access to both the Cubs station and the White Sox station. But sometimes it's hard to get the White Sox station when I don't have Wi-Fi. And so I was using Marquee, and oh my God, dude, I'm going to have to pay attention. My generation used to call it dick riding. But it seems like the younger, more tame generation that censors every single word that might be deemed inappropriate calls it glazing. That's what they call it. But the commentators on that Cubs network, Jesus Christ, dude. I don't want to be disrespectful, but it sounded like Like there was, oh my god, I bet you their nipples were hard on that shit. Dude, there were a couple times they were talking about this play that Nico Horner did. Like basically he had was it called not fielder's choice, but it's like a fly ball in the infield that's an automatic out. It was one of those that they called, and then instead he let it drop and then kind of fooled the runner on third into trying to run this, or the runner on second, he fooled him into running to third. And then, of course, Nico's one of the greatest infielders in the league, probably. And so he threw it from first to third and got the tag out. And they were talking about it for like through the next inning. Like every time you'd think they were done talking about it, like, you know what's the other great thing about that Nico play is I feel like he did a couple stutter steps first just to kind of fool him. I feel like half the people who are listening to this don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But yeah, I never am really on that side of it because, just to be clear, I grew up a Cubs fan, and I think that they are going to go to the World Series this year, and I really hope they do. And so ultimately, if they had swept the Sox twice, it would have been good. But I feel like I had a sensitivity this time towards the way they were commentating. Like their little like passive aggressive shit. I wonder. I don't know, because I'm not really a fan of that many other teams, and so I wonder if that happens every game, or if during the crosstown rivalry, these old school commentators who have been watching the rivalry for more than a decade have a little passive aggressive nature to calling these plays. I guess there's a lot of that these days. Acting like you want to go on a date with your favorite athlete. It's so funny to me people paint certain players' names across their chest. Dude, I don't want to be that guy, but if my generation did that, you'd get, like, called some names. Here you are, a second-generation crypto bro, living in a loft in Wrigleyville, with another man's name painted across your chest. Cubs are the rich kids, though, of the MLB, so, you know. Oh, yeah, what's that about, Onion? What's that about, Onion? You got some investors who are Cubs fans? Fucking Onion always talking shit about the Sox. I've met some of you guys. You guys don't play baseball. What are you doing? Low-hanging fruit. Oh, I got one for you guys. All right, how about this, Onion? The White Sox lose again, probably. There's your fucking headline on that. Yeah. Don't act like I haven't noticed. I know what you guys look like. Don't remember the last time the Onion won a World Series either, so why don't you guys cool it with the White Sox? Hey, you can find a different team to talk about. Be a little bit more proud of your city. I know you got those rich Wrigleyville investors. I know that probably Jack White subscribes. Jack White is prescribed a subscription. I know fucking Eddie Vedder's out there laughing about the White Sox. Do you guys want to make him laugh? I understand. But we're all noticing what you're doing here. And in a couple years, when the White Sox are leading the American League, I'm going to be paying attention to you guys. I'm going to be paying attention to how you handle that.
Well, what if we take all of the ideas we had for the White Sox and then we just changed it to the Cubs? Okay? And then we're done. We don't have to redo everything.
Let's move on to something else. Everybody join and do the song with me. Let's sing it. So the summer, what season is it? The summer issue of Pizza Magazine has begun to accumulate into something solid and real. So Justin Audio, who has done all of the covers of both breakfast magazines, my first two, and then all 4 pizzas. This will be the 4th of them, and he sent me the work. It looks great. Start putting it together, and then I finally got my final prose piece that I needed for that, and so it'll be coming together, definitely released in August. And I've got it all arranged with Justin, so we're going to have a podcast episode where we chat. I think we're going to record it this weekend if our schedules work out. And what else? I don't know. There's some recurring writers in it and some new ones. Got another piece by Evan Bryson, who I have had, I think 3 excerpts from this longer work that he's been working on. Maybe that. And then we have a very special guest this time for the 3rd time. You guys aren't going to believe this, but the head writer of The Onion will be in the magazine. He will have a short story, and it's going to be, you could read it yourself. You know, when I first asked Mike to come on to my podcast, I thought that it wasn't going to, maybe he would just say no, but maybe he would say yes. I just asked him, He's hung out in my apartment before, and, we know each other pretty well, but little do I know that he actually limits the amount of times he would like to be online with his name online. He tries to limit that. So I did not know that. So I apologize about that. Makes sense. Don't want Jimmy Kimmel seeing any podcasts out that he doesn't. Oh, and then my good friend Paul Shoemaker will be in it with a found piece that I'm trying to figure out how to do the centerfold better, because it's something that I've utilized it a little bit. It is a topic people bring up, and it seems like a lot of the answers are the same. So like the centerfold, when you hear the centerfold, it is like people think of like Playboy or whatever, which is true. That's the centerfold because it is the centerfold, and those magazines utilized it for the dirty part. But the centerfold is, it's all magazines that are stapled or sewn have a centerfold. That's the fold at the center. You know what I mean? And so I'm going to try to figure out how to have that image that Paul sent me be the centerfold. But now, if you haven't seen these, which most of you probably haven't, because not very many people have seen them because there haven't been that many in existence, if you know what I mean. But the center, I use a string. So instead of just having the 2 staples, the string goes along the whole fold. So now it's a matter of figuring out if I can even use the image that doesn't get disrupted by the string. I don't know if that makes sense. Go, Cubs, go. Go, go. So I think I maybe talked about this a while ago, but when Ariel, my girlfriend, was in Belgium recently, she was traveling in Belgium for work. She went to a comic shop because she knew that I was interested in them. But then not coincidentally, these things happen. She got some for herself, and then she became interested in them too. You know what's funny? I saw this, it was like a survey of, like they did a survey of what qualities in a man women seem the least attractive. And literally, towards the top of the list was comic books, and then towards the bottom of the list was, like, even lower than comic books, was gambling. Like, women would rather have a man have, like, a debt to dangerous people than read a comic book. You do it to yourself, ladies. I hate to break it to you. You really do it to yourself. But yeah, so since Ariel was kind of reading some, and she really liked them, but I don't really think that she is into superheroes so much. I went to Barnes & Noble. This is sort of my process with books too, but so for comic books, it's kind of like the two major publishers are kind of Marvel and DC, obviously, because those are like the biggest superheroes. And so what I did there was I was trying to find more independent published books, and I would just look for who they're published by on the spine, and then I would like pull them out and look at them and see if I liked the art or see if the story seemed interesting. But there's also like, just like anything, just like record labels or just like publishers. There's also independent appearing comic publishers that are actually owned by major publishers. So, for example, Vertigo is a pretty famous comic publisher, but it's actually owned by DC. And so that's the one that published like Watchmen or V for Vendetta or some of those more famous, not Superman superhero stories. Speaking of which, I got a side note, but so for all my comic fans out there, obviously Watchmen and V for Vendetta are all written by Alan Moore. And then I started reading the Swamp Thing. That was kind of his breakout serialized gig, so to speak, because Saga of Swamp Thing was already a series, but he kind of revamped it in a way that's iconic and made a name for himself just as much as made the comic more popular. So I was reading that, but then when I went to that one comic shop in the Quad Cities, I was looking for one specific Batman issue that's a part of those early Jason Todd Robin stories, the Robin that gets murdered by the Joker. And I found it, and it's written, like, part of the arc is written by Alan Moore, and then the other part of the arc is written by that Max Allen Collins, who's from Iowa. But coincidentally, I haven't read that issue yet. I have 4 Batman issues that I've gotten that I haven't read, but, they only take like 20 minutes to read. But I'm not talking about Batman again. It used to be, when I started this podcast, I would accidentally talk about the author of The Shining and Pet Sematary, and the author of The Stand, the author of Cujo, the author of... No, I would talk about Stephen King way too much, and now I'm talking about Batman way too much. What is that? Why does that happen? All right, so let's talk about my gifts to my wonderful girlfriend. So, firstly, I already showed her these, but she got this weird one when she was in Belgium that I think she kind of really zipped through. She read it pretty fast. It's almost like a animated journal more than a comic, but it's by a guy named Brandon Graham. This one in particular is called Surviving on Mars. And it's like a diary comic, that's what it's called. But I'm not sure how rare these are, because she got it overseas or whatever. But I will say it's kind of, I'm not sure how I feel about it. Because I think he is kind of an older dude. Like, he's in his 50s, and he draws a lot of, like, young chicks. Which is, like, whatever. It's explicit. It's an explicit, almost pornographic sometimes. But I did read, it's interesting. I feel like I'm always pushing buttons on accident. I don't want to make anyone mad. But I was reading, because even in the story of his diary, he shares with us that his girlfriend is trans. And then he draws pictures of her and all this stuff. And then I was looking them up because I was kind of wondering if there was any people being mad about his drawings, not about anything in that regard. But then I was reading on Reddit, and people were trying to, like, cancel him because they were saying that he's, like, fetishizing trans women. It's like, I feel like at that point, dudes just, like, can't win. And I know it's, like, probably a really small group of people who were, like, trying to do a virtue signal where they're like, he's fetishizing trans women. Like, I don't know. Just as someone who's completely outside of that whole conversation, like, you don't really want to scare people off from supporting. I mean, like, he's like dating a trans person. Like, you don't want to scare him off from being like supportive of his partner. Like, he's already probably getting blowback from the other like ultra right side. That's like psychotic. I don't know. It's probably not my place to talk about it. But that one was, there was some cool stuff. I'm kind of struggling to get all the way through it, honestly. So let's move on to another one. So then I was looking for stuff for Ariel. Like I said, I was looking at the publishers at in person. You know, you got to go support those bookstores. And this first one I found is from Ahoy Comics. That's like an independent comic company. Or at least I'm sure they're independent unless they're owned by someone or were bought out by someone. But I found this one. It's like a 6-issue series. This is part 1, so I think the whole series probably ran for 12 issues. But it's called Billionaire Island. And it's about billionaires making a fake island for themselves. And then that's like where they live during the collapse of civilization. It's a satire. It's humorous. But it's also very bleak too. And I really liked this one. I thought it was witty. Some things were kind of maybe expected, just with like already established theories about the end of the world, or already established criticisms about the ultra rich. Those kind of things were in there, but I feel like they were maneuvered in a way that was entertaining and unique. So yeah, that's Billionaire Island through Ahoy Comics. It's part 1 of 2. I imagine it's probably through running. It was published in 2020. Wow, so I wonder if it was being released during COVID lockdown, or what that year means. Maybe it ended in 2020. Maybe it started in 2020. But 12 issues, that's probably 1 a month, or if it's 1 a week, that's 3 months. I can do math. All right, and then the last one I haven't read yet. So there's this really great series that is probably, I would say probably when I talk to people, it's the largest, most, it made the most waves in comics out of anything during my adulthood. And then it was put on pause and then picked up again, but it's called Saga. And it's sort of a sci-fi story about intergalactic warfare. It's very explicit. It's got very, taboo subjects. And it's one of those books that I wouldn't read in public because I'd turn the page and see something super graphic. But anyway, this the same author came out with another series. He's the writer of Saga. He came out with this new series called Paper Girls. I haven't read it yet. I got it for Ariel because I feel like she kind of likes coming of age, like teen things. Like, she was super into Yellow Jackets and sort of like Stranger Things, all that shit. And so I saw this one. I knew the writer was really good, and so I got this one, but I haven't actually read it. And I don't know if I will, because I don't know if I will want to. But it's sort of like a super neon colored art. And I guess it's kind of like about the 80s. And it's like a kind of supernatural story of like a coming of age story. It's probably honestly similar to Stranger Things, honestly. I would imagine they used Stranger Things as like a marketing blueprint. But it might also be all girls, I think. I'm not sure. So I just read, it's like Paper Girls. Maybe that's Newspaper Girls. When I first saw that, I just thought it was like abstract, like paper mache.